long time, psychology concerned itself with the abnormal. If you were a psychologist, we assumed that you study abnormal behavior, emotional disorders, mental problems, and all kinds of difficulties. And yes, that is what a psychologist for the most part was. But then, in the last 20 to 30 years, a new movement arose called positive psychology. Positive psychology concerns itself with happiness. What makes us happy? And yes, it became a very popular subject overnight. But then people started adding to it. People started asking the question, not just what is happiness or what makes us happy, but what are strengths? What are some human strengths that allow us to prosper and develop and progress in our lives? A lot of different research projects came about, and in these research projects, people studied internationally, globally, things like, can money buy happiness? So this was a very fascinating study. It was happening right before my very eyes in the last 20 years. People were collecting data from all over the world. I was part of that project where, we sort of collected data about what made people happy, and especially if money had something to do with it. And the discovery was fairly universal. If you had a lot of money, and that if you were very rich, acquiring more money did not necessarily make you happier. Yes, but if you didn't have enough money for your basic needs, or if you didn't have sufficient money to fulfill your desires, then money did make you happy. So the answer is that if you're poor, money will make you happy. But if you're rich, more money is not going to make you happier. So research like this led to other kinds of research. It looked at other factors that might be important. And a worldwide survey of human strengths started to take place. The leading figure among these psychologists was Martin Seligman, who nearly half a century ago gave us the idea of learned helplessness. I won't talk about learned helplessness now because that was a very negative concept, and we are talking about positive psychology. But it's symbolic how the shift from a negative state of helplessness to a very positive state of happiness and joy came about. So let's talk about some other important human strengths and some other important factors that contribute to well-being and happiness. The first thing we discovered was that altruism makes you happy. Helping others makes you happy. Altruism essentially means the desire and the ability and the capacity to help others. And this was quite a surprising finding. We discovered that people found great joy when they helped the other person. Even if they weren't very well to do themselves, they still found great happiness when they were able to assist others in their time of need. Then, another factor that was discovered is gratitude makes you happy. People who are grateful to others and or to God are generally happier. So for instance, you go through a very rough day, you come home, you're tired, and maybe you're shaken because of whatever has happened throughout the day. But when you take a breath and pause and say, thank God for all the blessings that I do have, people who thank God are generally happier. People who thank their spouse, their children, their parents, their friends are generally happier. The state of gratitude, the state of thankfulness makes you happier. We have seen around us that a lot of the times there is a culture of complaint. People are generally complaining. The traffic is bad. The police is bad. The government is bad. X is bad. Y is bad. And there is a culture of talking about what is bad and what is terrible and how bad things are. But people who choose not to indulge in that and instead say, well, we're grateful, we're thankful for what we do have. So for instance, if we go from point A to point B, there may be a road that is drivable. If we come home without an accident, that is something to be grateful for. in a city that's so plagued with accidents, if we do not suffer from a major catastrophe in terms of health or employment, that's still something to be thankful for. There is so much that we can be thankful for. People who generally say thank you a lot, whether it is to God or to others, tend to be happier. Then another very interesting finding was that forgiveness makes you happy. If you are quick to forgive others, if you are ready to forgive others, even if they've done you wrong, if you forgive others, you're likely to be happy. But here I want to make a point. Generally, forgiveness means that you forgive from a position of power. If you are in a weak position, forgiveness doesn't really mean anything. Let me give you an example. A husband who beats up his wife every day, and the wife, instead of taking some measures, organizing some help from the family, maybe seeking a separation, maybe seeking a divorce, says, "Oh, I forgive you," and then gets beaten up again, and then says, "I forgive you." That's not the forgiveness that brings happiness. And I am saying that based on the research that is available. Battered women constantly forgive their husbands, but they're miserable. Whether or not they're doing something right or wrong, it's an ethical issue. But what I'm saying here is that forgiveness that comes from a position of power is what is actual forgiveness. So for instance, you could be in a country where your country is occupied by other forces, as for instance in Kashmir or in Palestine. So it is not for a Palestinian or a Kashmiri to say, "I forgive you" to the soldier, because you're not in a position to forgive. You have to be in a position of power to forgive in order to feel the happiness. If you're a victim and continue to be a victim, then chances are forgiveness is not going to help you very much in terms of being happy. And finally, spirituality. Our research shows that people who are spiritual, whether you're a Buddhist monk or a Christian priest, or whether you're a Muslim Sufi, or you're a Hindu yogi, chances are you are happier than your average Joe Schmo from Pocono. Why? We find that spirituality allows people to have a talk, to have a conversation, to have a prayer with God. And when they do that, it is like finding the most natural therapist in your life. You're able to have a dialogue with yourself, so to speak. You're able to find that time to reflect. And also remember that when we are spiritual, we tend to pray. And when we tend to pray, the level of hope increases. And when we have hope or optimism, we are likely to work harder to achieve our goals. So in the end, I would like to say that there are these 4 factors which have been found to be contributing to our happiness: altruism, gratitude, forgiveness, and spirituality. So next time, when you find a few minutes, think about these 4 aspects of your life and see if they can enhance your happiness